Have you ever wondered why certain things in life feel so heavy? Why do we hold on to relationships that no longer serve us, or to memories that only bring pain? Have you ever asked yourself, what if letting go could actually make my life better? These are questions we often avoid, yet they hold the key to living a life of freedom and peace. Imagine this. You're holding a glass of water. It's not too heavy at first, right? But what happens if you keep holding it for an hour, a day, a week? The glass doesn't get heavier, but your arm starts to ache, and the strain becomes unbearable. Life is a lot like that glass of water. The longer we hold on to things, stress, grudges, regrets, the more they weigh us down. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about setting yourself free from the unnecessary burdens that steal your joy. Welcome to Wisdom Woven. On this channel, we explore profound ideas that simplify life and bring clarity to your mind. Today, we're diving into the transformative power of letting go, inspired by timeless Buddhist wisdom. But before we start, here's a little reminder. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of you have subscribed. If you find value in our content, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep bringing valuable insights to you. Now, back to the topic. The concept of letting go might sound simple, but it challenges one of the most deeply rooted aspects of human nature, our attachment. Attachment to material things, people, and even our own expectations can create a cycle of suffering. Buddhism teaches us that clinging to anything impermanent is like trying to hold water in our hands. It will eventually slip away, leaving us with nothing but frustration. In this part, we'll uncover why letting go is not just a choice but a practice. It's about recognizing what truly matters and releasing what doesn't. Stay with us as we journey into this liberating perspective, exploring how it can transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. The roots of attachment. Why we hold on. We all hold on to something in life, whether it's an idea, a person, or a possession. But have you ever stopped to think about why we do this? Why do we cling so tightly to things that ultimately cause us pain, frustration, and disappointment? The answer lies deep within us, in a place we often don't want to look. It's not always easy to understand, but once we do, it can open up a whole new way of seeing the world. At the core of our attachment is fear. Fear of losing control, fear of the unknown, fear of not being enough. These fears shape our behavior in ways we might not even realize. For example, when we fear losing a loved one, we might cling to them more than we should, trying to hold them in a way that isn't healthy or natural. We try to control situations, relationships, and outcomes, believing that if we let go, we'll lose everything. This fear creates a barrier between us and true peace. Attachment also comes from the desire for security. We want things to stay the same because change can feel overwhelming. We hold on to the familiar, even if it no longer serves us. Think about the things in your life that you have been holding on to for a long time. Maybe an old grudge, a bad habit, or a past mistake. These things may not be helpful, but they feel comfortable. They give us a sense of predictability in a world that often feels uncertain. But, in reality, this attachment only limits us, keeping us stuck in the past instead of allowing us to move forward. In Buddhism, attachment is considered one of the primary causes of suffering. The Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same forever. This includes our feelings, relationships, and even our material possessions. When we attach ourselves too strongly to things that are destined to change, we set ourselves up for pain. We resist the natural flow of life, holding on to what is no longer relevant or helpful. But here's the truth. Life doesn't wait for us to let go. If we refuse to release what we're holding on to, life will gently, or sometimes harshly, teach us that everything is fleeting. This is where the wisdom of Buddhism really shines. Buddhism doesn't just tell us that attachment causes suffering, it offers us a way out. It teaches us how to release our grip on things, not by rejecting them, but by accepting them for what they are, temporary. Through the practice of mindfulness and meditation, we can begin to observe our attachments without getting lost in them. This doesn't mean we stop caring about people or things, but rather, we learn to appreciate them without the need to control or possess them. Let's take a moment to reflect on the nature of change. Think about the seasons. We watch the leaves turn vibrant colors in autumn, fall to the ground, and then, in winter, the trees stand bare. We know that spring will come again, bringing new life and new growth. This cycle is a natural part of the world, and it applies to all things in our lives. We are constantly evolving, changing, and growing, holding on to the past, whether it's a past version of ourselves, a relationship, or a dream, keeps us from embracing the new opportunities that life is offering us. Why do we resist change so much? The fear of uncertainty is powerful. We like the idea of things staying the same because it feels safe. But safety often comes at the cost of our potential. In order to grow, we must be willing to let go of the things that no longer serve us. This is not about abandoning our responsibilities or relationships. It's about releasing the unhealthy attachments that bind us. For example, if you've been in a job or a relationship that makes you unhappy, but you stay because it feels secure, you're not living your fullest potential. You're holding on to the comfort of the familiar, even if it's not good for you. Buddhism teaches that we must embrace impermanence. Everything changes, and that is the natural state of the world. By understanding and accepting this truth, we can begin to let go of our attachment to things that are bound to change. Letting go doesn't mean we no longer care. It means we release the need to control and possess. When we understand that everything is impermanent, we stop clinging to things as if they will last forever. Instead, we appreciate them while they're here and allow them to naturally fade away when their time is past. Letting go also means we stop holding on to our old ideas about who we are. Many of us identify strongly with our past experiences, our achievements, or our failures. These become the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of. But these stories are not permanent either. The past is behind us, and the future hasn't happened yet. The only thing that's real is the present moment. Holding on to old versions of ourselves keeps us from becoming who we are meant to be. By letting go of these outdated ideas, we free ourselves to step into the person we are becoming. One of the most powerful aspects of letting go is that it opens up space in our lives. When we release old attachments, we make room for new experiences, people, and opportunities. Think of your life as a cup. If your cup is already full, there's no room for anything new. But when you let go of the things that no longer serve you, you make space for something better. This is how the universe works. When we release, we make room for new blessings, new lessons, and new growth. By letting go, we step into a more abundant life. Letting go is also about trusting the flow of life. We often resist what's happening because it doesn't match our expectations. We want life to unfold in a certain way, but life doesn't work that way. By trusting in the natural flow of things, we let go of the need to control every detail. This doesn't mean we stop taking action. It means we stop worrying so much about the outcome. When we trust the process, we find peace, even in the most challenging circumstances. So, why do we hold on to things that no longer serve us? It's because we are afraid. We are afraid of change, afraid of losing control, and afraid of facing the unknown. But the truth is, the only thing we truly control in life is our ability to let go. When we embrace impermanence and release our attachments, we open ourselves to a deeper level of peace and freedom. By learning to let go, we create space for new beginnings, new experiences, and new growth. And that, ultimately, is the key to a fulfilling and meaningful life. As we move forward in this series, remember this: attachment isn't a weakness. It's a natural part of being human. But the path to true peace and freedom begins when we understand the roots of our attachment and start the practice of releasing. This isn't an overnight process, it's a journey. And each step we take toward letting go brings us closer to the liberation we seek. Buddhist teachings on letting go. In Buddhism, letting go is not just a philosophical idea. It is a vital practice for finding peace and happiness. To understand this practice fully, we must first explore the Buddhist teachings on attachment, desire, and impermanence. These teachings show us that our attachment to the world as we see it is the root cause of suffering, and by letting go, we open the door to true freedom. Let's start with the concept of attachment. In our daily lives, we form attachments to people, places, and things. These attachments are based on our desires, our hopes, and our fears. But according to Buddhism, Everything in the world is temporary and ever-changing. We often think of our lives as stable and certain, but in truth, nothing lasts forever. Relationships fade, objects break, and situations change. When we attach ourselves to something or someone, we create a false sense of security. The problem is, when those things inevitably change or leave, we are left feeling lost, hurt, and empty. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the cause of our suffering because it's based on the illusion that we can control life. The Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent, anicca, as it is called in Sanskrit. This means that everything is in a constant state of change. When we resist this truth and try to hold on to things that are destined to pass, we increase our suffering. Imagine holding on to a flower. If you grip it too tightly, the petals are crushed and the beauty is lost. But if you allow it to rest in your hands, without forcing it to stay, you can appreciate it for the moment it is in, knowing that in time, it will fade, but its beauty is still real. Similarly, when we cling to people, ideas, or expectations, we are not allowing them to exist freely. The more we resist change, the more pain we create for ourselves. To truly practice letting go, we must understand the nature of desire. In Buddhism, desire, tanha, is considered one of the primary causes of suffering. Desire is not just wanting things, but also the deep attachment to how things should be. It's wanting things to stay the same, to remain within our control. But life is not something we can control. When we accept that, we begin to understand that the root of suffering lies not in having desires, but in being overly attached to them. Desire itself isn't wrong. It's our attachment to our desires that leads to frustration. The Buddhist path to liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path, offers practical steps to help us let go of our attachments and desires. This path emphasizes wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The first step on this path is right understanding, or samadhi, which is the recognition of the Four Noble Truths. These truths explain that life is full of suffering, that suffering comes from desire, that suffering can be overcome, and that the way to overcome suffering is through the Eightfold Path. When we understand these truths, we can begin to see our attachments for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and ultimately unreliable. Through right intention, we begin to shift our mindset and our approach to life. We start letting go of the need for control and the false belief that we can hold on to things forever. We learn to accept the natural flow of life, embracing it as it comes, without resistance. Right action and right livelihood teach us how to live in harmony with others and ourselves. By letting go of the need to prove ourselves or seek external validation, we begin to live more authentically. When we release these external attachments, we are no longer chasing after approval or possessions, but instead, we live according to our inner values and principles. We become less concerned with what others think and more focused on living in alignment with our deeper purpose. Right effort and right mindfulness help us to stay present, attentive, and aware. When we practice mindfulness, we cultivate the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment. We can notice when we are clinging to something, whether it's a past memory, a future worry, or a present desire, and we can gently let it go. This doesn't mean we suppress or ignore our feelings. Rather, it means we stop attaching ourselves to them, allowing them to arise and pass without holding on to them. The final step of the Eightfold Path, right concentration, teaches us how to focus our minds and develop inner calm. By training ourselves to meditate, we strengthen our ability to let go. Meditation helps us quiet the mind and release the constant chatter of thoughts that often keep us attached to our desires and fears. In this stillness, we can experience the freedom of simply being. One of the most powerful Buddhist teachings on letting go is found in the concept of non-self or anatta. According to Buddhism, the idea of a permanent, unchanging self is an illusion. We are not fixed, separate entities. Our thoughts, emotions, and experiences are all fluid and interconnected. When we hold on to the idea of a fixed self, we create more attachment. But when we realize that there is no permanent self, we can begin to let go of the need to defend, protect, or hold on to this false identity. We are free to flow with life as it is. The Buddhist teachings on letting go emphasize the importance of living in the present moment. The present moment is all we truly have. When we are constantly looking to the past or worrying about the future, we miss the richness of life right in front of us. By letting go of these distractions, we can fully engage with the world as it is, experiencing life with a clear mind and an open heart. In practice, letting go is a process, not a one-time event. It is about continually releasing our attachments and embracing life as it unfolds. It's a path of awareness, acceptance, and understanding. The more we practice, the more we begin to see the beauty in impermanence, the freedom in non-attachment, and the peace that comes from letting go. Buddhism teaches us that letting go isn't about being passive or detached from life. It's about being present and fully engaged, without the burden of unnecessary attachments. It's about letting life flow through us, rather than trying to control it. The more we can let go, the more we open ourselves to experiencing life in its purest form, free from the chains of expectation and desire. Letting go is an act of wisdom and compassion. It's the wisdom to recognize that we cannot hold on to things forever, and the compassion to understand that holding on only brings suffering. By letting go, we cultivate a deep sense of peace and connection to the world around us. It is only through letting go that we can experience true freedom, the freedom to live in the present moment, free from the past and the future, free from the endless cycle of desire and attachment. Ultimately, the Buddhist teachings on letting go are about liberation. They show us that the key to peace is not found in holding on, but in releasing. Through the practice of letting go, we move closer to understanding our true nature and the impermanent nature of everything around us. We come to see that letting go is not losing, it's gaining freedom, gaining peace, and gaining the ability to live fully and authentically. In the next part, we'll explore practical steps to begin this process of letting go in your own life. But remember, this journey is not a destination. It's a practice, a way of being. By embracing the wisdom of Buddhism and learning to let go, we can experience a deeper, more meaningful life. The art of acceptance, finding peace in the present. In the stillness of the moment, we often find ourselves caught in the chaos of our minds. We worry about the past, the future, the what-ifs and could-haves. But what if peace doesn't lie in changing the world around us? What if it's found in simply accepting the world as it is, right here, right now? The art of acceptance is one of the most powerful tools for finding peace in the present moment. It is the heart of Buddhism, the key to letting go, and the way to navigate the ups and downs of life without being swept away by them. We live in a world that constantly urges us to strive, to fight for more, to seek perfection. This constant pursuit of something better can make us feel as if we're always falling short, like we're never quite enough. But in the teachings of Buddhism, there's a profound truth. The present moment is perfect just as it is. No matter where you are, who you are, or what you have or don't have, this moment is exactly as it should be. Think about a moment in your life when everything felt calm. Maybe it was a walk in nature, a quiet evening at home, or a peaceful conversation with a loved one. In those moments, did you notice that you weren't thinking about what you should be doing next? You weren't worrying about tomorrow or regretting yesterday. You were simply present. That is the essence of acceptance. It's not about being passive or resigned. It's about recognizing that there's beauty and peace in this moment, no matter how imperfect it may seem. Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises when we resist what is happening right now. We create suffering when we want things to be different from how they are. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic and you start getting frustrated. You begin to think, I should be somewhere else. I don't have time for this. In that moment, you're rejecting the present. You're fighting reality. But if, instead, you could just breathe, relax, and accept that the traffic is part of the experience of this moment, you would find a sense of calm. You would free yourself from the struggle and from the mental suffering of wanting things to be different. That is the power of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or not trying to improve your situation. It simply means acknowledging that things are as they are, and finding peace in that truth. When we accept things as they are, we stop fighting against them. And in stopping that fight, we stop creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves. One of the most powerful ways to practice acceptance is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying full attention to the present moment, without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to notice how often your mind drifts away from the here and now. We often judge our experiences, labeling them as good or bad, right or wrong. But mindfulness teaches us to observe without judgment. It encourages us to simply be with whatever is happening, without trying to change it. For example, let's say you're feeling anxious. Instead of trying to push the anxiety away or pretending it doesn't exist, mindfulness asks you to sit with it. Notice it. Observe where it is in your body. What thoughts are coming up with it? What emotions are tied to it? By accepting the anxiety without judgment, you create space around it. And when you create space, the anxiety no longer has the power to control you. This acceptance is not only about the big moments in life, but also about the small, everyday experiences. Every moment, no matter how mundane, is an opportunity to practice acceptance. Whether you're washing dishes, walking to work, or having a conversation, you can bring mindfulness to those moments. When you accept the present moment, you allow yourself to experience life fully, without the constant pressure of wanting more, better, or different. In Buddhist philosophy, acceptance is deeply linked to the concept of non-attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean that you don't care or that you shouldn't have goals and aspirations. It simply means that you don't cling to the outcome. You don't tie your happiness to something external. When you let go of the need to control everything, you free yourself to experience life in its fullest form. Think about the nature around you. A tree doesn't struggle to grow. It simply grows. It doesn't worry about the weather or whether it will bloom tomorrow. It accepts the conditions of its environment and adapts as needed. This is how we should approach life. Not as something to be forced or controlled, but as something to be experienced, as it is, moment by moment. In Buddhist teachings, the term zazen refers to seated meditation, but it is also a practice of acceptance. When sitting in meditation, the goal is not to push away distractions or to force your mind to be still. Instead, you accept whatever arises in your mind. You acknowledge the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that come up, but you don't attach to them. You let them pass like clouds in the sky. Through this practice, you begin to experience the power of simply being, without trying to change anything. Acceptance also means accepting ourselves. In a world that often tells us we're not good enough, acceptance of who we are, flaws and all, is revolutionary. When we stop judging ourselves, we stop the cycle of self-criticism and self-doubt. We realize that we are worthy, not because we are perfect, but because we are human. This doesn't mean that we stop striving for growth or self-improvement. It simply means that we accept ourselves in the process. We recognize that we are not defined by our mistakes, our failures, or our limitations. We are more than that. And when we accept ourselves as we are, we open the door to growth and transformation in a way that is gentle, kind, and compassionate. So, how can we begin to practice acceptance? Start small. When you wake up in the morning, take a moment to acknowledge the day as it is. Accept whatever emotions, thoughts, or circumstances come your way. When you find yourself struggling, pause and take a breath. Remind yourself that the moment is perfect as it is, and that there is nothing to change in this instant. Remember, acceptance is not a one-time practice. It's a way of being. It's about finding peace in the present, embracing what is, and letting go of the need to control. It's the art of being at peace with life, no matter what it brings. By practicing acceptance, we create space for gratitude, for joy, and for true peace. We stop being at war with ourselves in the world around us. And in that peace, we find the freedom to live fully, without the burden of unnecessary resistance. In the end, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the ability to accept life as it comes, without judgment, without resistance, and with an open heart. That is the path to true peace. The role of impermanence in freedom. Imagine you're standing by a river. The water flows endlessly, changing with each moment, yet never the same. You can touch the water, feel its coolness for a brief second, but it moves on, never staying still. This is how life is, constantly flowing, constantly changing. What if I told you that understanding and embracing this flow of change could bring you profound freedom? The idea of impermanence is at the core of Buddhist teachings, and it holds the key to living a life free from suffering. At first glance, impermanence might sound unsettling. After all, change can be uncomfortable. It's natural for us to want things to stay the same, especially when we find something we love or hold dear. But impermanence, or anicca in Buddhist terms, is not a curse. It's the truth of life. Everything, our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences, are in constant flux. Nothing lasts forever. This isn't something to fear but something to embrace, because in accepting impermanence, we open ourselves to a world of peace and freedom. Think about how much we cling to things. A favorite object, a relationship, a job, even an idea of who we are. The fear of losing them creates anxiety and frustration. We become so attached to these things that we often forget that they, too, are part of the flow of life. Just like the river, they will change or even disappear. But the real question is, can we accept this natural process and let go when the time comes? This is the profound insight that Buddhism offers. When we accept impermanence, we begin to understand that nothing is truly permanent, neither our joys nor our sorrows. Everything is part of an ever-changing cycle. This understanding frees us from the expectations and attachments that bind us. If you're stuck in the past, holding on to old memories, or if you're constantly worrying about the future, you're missing out on the beauty of the present moment. The present is the only time we truly have. It is always here, constantly in motion, and never waiting for us to catch up. Impermanence is also the reason why suffering is a part of life. But here's the liberating part. It's only our attachment to things that causes suffering. Imagine trying to hold on to a cloud in the sky. It's impossible, right? Yet we try to hold on to things like happiness, success, or even the people we love, thinking they will stay with us forever. But nothing does. When we cling too tightly, we end up feeling the pain of loss even before it happens. This is where understanding impermanence can set us free. Buddhism teaches that by letting go of attachments, we stop resisting the flow of life. We stop trying to force things to stay the same, and instead, we learn to flow with them. This doesn't mean we stop caring about people or experiences, but it means we release the unhealthy attachments that create suffering. We allow ourselves to enjoy the beauty of life without clinging to it. So, how do we practice this? The first step is to become aware of the impermanence around us. Look at nature. How the seasons change, how flowers bloom and wither. Everything in nature follows this cycle, and so do we. The next step is to let go of the fear that comes with change. When we start to accept that change is inevitable, we stop resisting it. We stop living in fear of what might be lost and start living in appreciation of what we have, right here, right now. Another powerful practice is mindfulness. By being present in each moment, we can fully experience life as it is, without judgment or attachment. When we're mindful, we notice how everything around us is constantly changing. Our thoughts, our emotions, our environment. This awareness brings a deep sense of peace, because we stop trying to hold on to things and simply experience them. This is the heart of freedom, living without the weight of unnecessary attachment. When we truly understand impermanence, we begin to appreciate life's fleeting moments. Instead of fearing the end of something, we start to see it as part of the natural flow of life. We begin to embrace change, knowing that it's an opportunity for growth and renewal. Life, in all its impermanence, is full of beauty and potential. For example, think about the last time you faced a difficult situation. Maybe it was a challenge at work, a disagreement with a friend, or a personal loss. In that moment, it may have felt overwhelming, and it may have seemed like the pain would never end. But eventually, things changed. The situation passed, and you found yourself in a new place, maybe wiser, stronger, or simply more at peace. This is impermanence in action. No matter how tough life may seem, everything changes. And this change is not something to resist but to flow with. We can also look at relationships through the lens of impermanence. How many times have we clung to someone or something, afraid of losing them? Maybe it's a person we love, or a friendship that feels irreplaceable. But relationships, like everything else, are impermanent. They grow, evolve, and sometimes they fade. Accepting the impermanence of relationships allows us to appreciate them while they last, without the fear of losing them. It helps us live more fully in the present, cherishing the time we have together, knowing that the nature of life is change. In Buddhist philosophy, The ultimate goal is to cultivate a mind that is not attached to anything, not because we don't care, but because we understand that attachment leads to suffering. When we let go of the desire to control the future or to cling to the past, we create space for true peace. We begin to live with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever comes next, without fear or resistance. The more we practice this understanding of impermanence, the more we can let go of the need for certainty and control. We stop expecting things to be a certain way and begin to see life as it is, ever-changing, full of surprises, and always in motion. This doesn't mean we stop caring about the world around us. Rather, it means we stop tying our happiness to the idea that things must stay the same. To truly embrace the role of impermanence in our lives, we must cultivate a deep sense of trust in the process of life. Trust that everything will change, and that's okay. Trust that we don't need to hold on to anything tightly because life, in its natural flow, will bring us what we need at the right time. When we trust in impermanence, we stop living in fear and start living with openness and acceptance. So, in conclusion, the role of impermanence in our freedom is immense. By accepting change and understanding that nothing lasts forever, we can free ourselves from the shackles of attachment and live more peacefully. Life is constantly unfolding, and when we learn to flow with it, rather than resist it, we experience true freedom. Letting go of the need for permanence doesn't mean we care any less. It simply means we open ourselves to a deeper, more fulfilling way of living. The river of life will continue to flow, and we, too, can flow with it. Practices for cultivating detachment. Let's take a moment to reflect. In our busy lives, where every moment is filled with something to do, someone to meet, or something to achieve, how often do we truly pause? How often do we step back and simply observe ourselves? Detachment, in its essence, is not about disconnecting from the world, but rather about being able to see it without becoming entangled in it. It's about engaging with life fully, but without being swept away by it. This ability to detach is not a skill we are born with, it's a practice. And the beauty of it lies in the fact that anyone can learn it, starting right now. Let me explain something simple. Detachment is not about withdrawing from life, becoming emotionless, or neglecting our responsibilities. It's about recognizing that our happiness, peace, and sense of fulfillment do not depend on external circumstances or the outcomes of our actions. In Buddhism, detachment is often referred to as non-attachment. It is the understanding that everything, relationships, possessions, successes, and failures, is impermanent. Nothing stays forever, and clinging to them only causes suffering. This understanding frees us from the expectations and attachments that weigh us down. Now, let's explore some practices that can help you cultivate detachment in your daily life. These practices will not only help you let go, but also lead to a deeper sense of peace and contentment. 1. Mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in each moment. It's about observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment or attachment. When you meditate, you create a space between you and your thoughts. You realize that you are not your thoughts. They come and go like clouds in the sky. This simple practice can help you detach from the constant mental chatter that pulls you in many directions. Start by sitting quietly for a few minutes each day. Focus on your breath. When thoughts arise, acknowledge them, but don't hold on to them. Let them pass. Over time, you'll develop a deeper understanding of how temporary and fleeting your thoughts are. The more you practice mindfulness, the easier it will become to let go of the mental clutter that disturbs your peace. 2. Gratitude practice. Often, we become attached to what we don't have, focusing on what's missing in our lives. This constant yearning creates dissatisfaction. Gratitude, however, allows us to shift our focus. By practicing gratitude daily, we learn to appreciate what we already have, instead of seeking fulfillment outside ourselves. Each day, take a moment to reflect on the things you are grateful for. It could be something as simple as a cup of tea, a conversation with a friend, or a beautiful sunset. When you focus on what you already have, you start to realize that life doesn't need to be constantly filled with new things or achievements to bring you joy. Letting go of the desire for more helps you appreciate the present moment, and in this appreciation, you find peace. 3. Simplifying your life. We live in a world where more is always considered better. More possessions, more accomplishments, more success. But often, the more we accumulate, the heavier we become. Physical clutter can lead to mental clutter, making it difficult to find peace. One way to practice detachment is by simplifying your life. Start by decluttering your physical space. Let go of items that no longer serve a purpose or bring you joy. This simple act of letting go of material possessions can create a sense of lightness and freedom. As you let go of physical items, you may also begin to notice how your mind becomes less cluttered. The less we hold on to, the more room we create for peace and clarity. 4. Self-inquiry. Another powerful practice is self-inquiry. This involves asking yourself deep questions like, who am I without this relationship? Without this job? Without these achievements? The answers to these questions often reveal that our attachments are based on our identification with external factors. We tie our self-worth to our job title, our relationship status, or our possessions. Through self-inquiry, you start to uncover the truth. Your essence is not defined by external things. You are inherently whole, regardless of your circumstances. This realization allows you to detach from the need for validation, success, or approval from others. It brings you back to your true self, which is free, peaceful, and unaffected by external influences. 5. Letting go of expectations. Expectations are one of the main sources of suffering. We expect people to behave in certain ways, outcomes to unfold in a specific manner, or life to follow a particular path. When things don't go as we expect, disappointment, frustration, and anger arise. Letting go of expectations means accepting that life doesn't always unfold the way we want it to. It's about surrendering to the flow of life and trusting that whatever happens is exactly what we need, even if it doesn't match our plans. Practice being open to whatever comes your way, without rigid expectations. When you do this, you stop resisting life and begin to embrace it with greater ease and grace. 6. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful practices for detachment. Holding on to grudges or past hurts only keeps you tethered to the pain. When you forgive, you release the emotional grip that keeps you stuck in the past. This doesn't mean condoning the hurt or forgetting it, but it means freeing yourself from its hold on you. Take time to forgive, both others and yourself. The more you forgive, the more you lighten your emotional load. With each act of forgiveness, you loosen your attachment to the pain and open yourself up to healing. Letting go of resentment and bitterness allows you to move forward with a lighter heart. 7. Living in the present moment. One of the most effective ways to cultivate detachment is to live in the present moment. Often, we either dwell on the past or worry about the future, and in doing so, we miss the beauty of the present. Detachment isn't about escaping the world. It's about fully engaging with it without becoming attached to any specific outcome. When you live in the present, you experience life as it is, without the need to change it or hold on to it. The present moment is all we truly have, and by focusing on it, we can free ourselves from the burden of expectations, regrets, and worries. 8. Practicing compassion. Detachment is not about becoming cold or indifferent. True detachment comes from a place of compassion. When you detach from someone or something, it doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care without clinging. Compassion allows you to feel deeply for others, while also recognizing that their happiness is not in your hands. By practicing compassion, you learn to love without attachment, to give without expecting anything in return, and to support others without becoming overly involved in their struggles. Compassionate detachment frees both you and others, allowing you to act from a place of love rather than obligation or neediness. 9. Embracing the flow of life. Finally, detachment is about embracing the natural flow of life. Just as a river flows freely without resistance, we too must learn to move with the currents of life. Life will take us through ups and downs, joy and sorrow, but when we flow with it rather than resist, we experience less pain. By cultivating the practice of letting go, you allow life to unfold as it should. You stop trying to control everything and instead trust that each moment is part of a greater journey. Embrace the flow, and you'll discover that life's transitions become much smoother and more peaceful. Conclusion. These practices are not a quick fix. Cultivating detachment is a lifelong journey, one that requires patience and persistence. But as you begin to practice these simple yet profound techniques, you'll notice a shift. You'll feel lighter, freer, and more at peace with yourself and the world. Detachment doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It means embracing life without being weighed down by it. Through these practices, you'll unlock the power of letting go and discover a deeper sense of freedom and joy. The emotional journey, navigating pain and loss. When you think about letting go, what comes to mind? Is it a simple act of releasing something? Or does it feel more like a painful process, like tearing apart a piece of your soul? We've all experienced pain, loss, and disappointment in life. The deeper the attachment, the harder it becomes to let go. Whether it's the end of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, or even the end of a phase in life that we've grown accustomed to, the emotional journey can seem overwhelming. But in these moments, letting go is often the only path to healing and peace. Let's think about pain for a moment. Pain doesn't ask for permission. It comes uninvited, like a storm that you didn't expect. But what happens if we don't try to fight it? What if we allow ourselves to feel it fully instead of resisting it? When you resist pain, it lingers. It tightens its grip on you, and you start feeling trapped. But when you allow it to pass through you, just like a wave that rises and then crashes back into the ocean, you begin to realize that pain, too, is impermanent. It's only when we stop fighting it and accept it that it starts to lose its power over us. In Buddhism, there's a concept called dukkha, which is often translated as suffering. This suffering is not just about physical pain, but the emotional turmoil that comes from attachment, our constant desire to hold on to things, people, and experiences that are temporary. To Wisdom Woven, your support helps this community grow and brings these teachings to others who may need them. This is not the end, my friend. This is the beginning of your own journey toward liberation. May you walk your path with lightness, with peace, and with the deep knowing that you are enough, just as you are. Thank you for allowing me to guide you. And may your days ahead be filled with freedom and joy.